This week's episode is sponsored by Hustle and Bling. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that bling. Lovely paparazzi designer pieces for only $5. That's right, $5. And don't worry about it if the kid gets in the jewelry box. They're only $5. Make sure you catch Allison Mondays and Tuesdays, Wednesdays and Thursdays live on Instagram and Facebook, promoting some of these wonderful fashion fixes that you'll enjoy. And if you miss it, check out the website. It don't mean a thing if it ain't got that bling. Hustle and Bling.
Say goodbye. I'll take you to the park. Say goodbye. Mm-mm. Say goodbye, hot dog. There we go. There we go.
Right along with Vanessa Morning Show streams Fridays, 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. Stay in love. Stay in Love TV is your production to distribution solution to getting your message seen and heard. Having your own TV show with Stay in Love TV has never been easier than now. Stay in Love TV gives you the power to share your message with the world. Stop watching TV and start being watched on TV. Stay in Love TV offers real-time multicasting, all with one click. This opportunity puts you on the world stage with an audience of over 200 million. In addition to your low monthly subscription fees, you will also receive monthly network coaching and training from the network itself to ensure that before your first show premieres, you are set up for success. We at Stay in Love TV bring over 20 years experience in sales, marketing, advertising, and business development. Stay in Love TV, purposeful entertainment driven by love, empowered with passion, fueled with faith. Go to www.stayinlovetv.com and let's get started.
This is thy kingdom come. Let the spirit of the Holy One pass over. Let your peace cover the earth. Lord, let your will be done. This is the time to take a stand, to let the world know that you can. You can face tomorrow, but today is the day that you say, I will reign. I will reign.
Hello, everyone. How are you? How are you? I am Vanessa Klinger, your intuitive life strategist and life coach motivator.
And I'm Michelle, your motivator and your inner evolutionist. Namaste. Bow to the divine plan, purpose, and power in you.
Hey, co-host. How was your week, baby?
Expanding, but staying grounded.
Girl, I'm telling you, it's only gonna get better from this. I'm telling you, you crossed the finish line and things opened up, and it's just so great how the power of faith and the will in totally trusting God, the benefits of trusting God and yourself.
Yeah.
I'm learning.
So this week, having to travel and do some training, it was like an hour. So it was a time to just focus and concentrate. And so I think it was Tuesday when I was on the way, Tuesday or Wednesday. And I was thinking that when you're going through a lot of things, people think you're a strong woman. But what I felt like, I was strong in God. It wasn't that I was a strong woman. It was that the power that I relied on to not help me to survive, but overcome every test. Just like we talked about, I believe last week, you have to go through basic training in order to get the necessary power that you need for what you're going to face. And even when you go through that training, it's still not the same as the experience. So just want to encourage the viewers tonight that nothing's too hard for God. So therefore, nothing's too hard for you. And if you keep that focus and intention you can do it.
Right. And also that self-awareness of knowing where God is. See,
Yeah,
that's the thing I think, because we were conditioned to think that he existed outside of us. Therefore, we felt as if we were all alone and that we were totally relying on our strength and everything.
right.
When we allow ourselves to be aware that the power of our creator exists within us, then it gives us that ability to not feel as if I'm doing all of this. That is that power, that God power energy that's
Yeah.
empowering me, even when I want to give up and quit. It's something inside. If you allow yourself to really believe that that's where God exists and how he empowers you, you'll start to feel and hear those nudges, and that internal support is going to keep you going. It
It's
really does.
it's like important to be able to hear that voice. A lot of times when you're going through a lot of things, your head mind is going through a lot of things, but your heart is still connected to God. So hearing that first voice and not that foolishness or you're not going to make it, you're always going through some da 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 da, that low vibration is something that you're going to have to find a way to diminish so that you can focus on hearing, because everything that you go through, God has a solution or an escape for you to get out of it. But because we are so close to listening to what our head is saying and what outside people are saying, we don't always hear the steps because our steps are ordered. If we would just listen, and I talked last week about being in that meditative state consistently and constantly. Now I understand and understand when God said, meditate day and night, because there's not a time that you're not facing something. It may not be major, but you're facing something constantly. So you have to be in that meditative state to be able to hear what your next step is, even when you can't see it.
And a lot of people don't really understand what that means or what that looks like, but that's just resting in the presence. And that comes
Mhm.
from the work that one has to put in.
You have to.
You have to put in that meditative work by getting yourself centered so that you can hear. And when you hear, your steps will be ordered. You'll be guided. You'll feel a nudge. You'll feel it,
Right.
that instinctive uh, nudges to do or say or be. You'll have that. But if you don't do the work, and a lot of us, we had to come to that realization, co-host, because when we were brought up in the church, we thought we just had to pray all day and
Right.
fast and
Right.
and deny ourselves things externally, but actually
Mhm.
we had to go within. And if so many people would just understand, come to that realization of knowing, hey, everything that I need is inside of me. I just need to tap into it. and
Right.
and it was like, they say Jesus is knocking on the door. That's enlightenment. That's
Hmm.
revelation. That's that truth that you need is knocking on the door of your psyche, your mind, so that when you open it up, that light can come in,
Yeah.
and then that's when the revelation can happen, and you can start to.
And the knock is not from the outside in, it's from the inside out. And
Mhm,
so when you say God is knocking at your door, because we've been hypnotized to third dimensional world set and
mhm.
mindset, we will see a person on the outside knocking, but God is that spirit that's on the inside knocking. So we have got to get centered in seeing our spiritual way of living instead of just being looking at the outside in.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's so many people that are still trying a method that doesn't work,
Right.
and wondering. And I've come to realize that once I did adopt these new methods, these new practices of becoming enlightened and disconnecting myself from the cord that was hypnotizing me and having me operating as a robot, is when I really started to see things happen in my life, which is just a confirmation that it works
Right. If you work.
if you work it.
Yeah.
Can't
And a lot of
lose.
people think we've been taught that God just drops things out of the sky, and it's just, no, it's not like that. It's already in the presence of the atmosphere. And he's done he's not doing anything else. He's done everything. And so it's up to us to take the responsibility. It's just like my kids. If I buy grocery and put it in the refrigerator, they have no need to ask me, can I eat? Or is there anything to eat? They have to access it. So for a long time, I thought prayer was just asking, but now I know prayer is accessing what is already there.
That's right.
And once you do that, you spend less energy and time begging God instead of thanking God for what he's already done.
That's true. And like I said, we were all conditioned and hypnotized to operate from an external perspective.
Right.
Instead of an internal perspective of going within, knowing that everything I need is in here. I just need to go within and sit quietly. And then if you notice your prayers, I know mine did. My prayers changed.
Completely.
I don't be praying and begging and from a fear perspective or from a need perspective,
or not having perspective.
Yeah. It's saying, okay, I know, and it's just totally different. My approach is totally different, and I'm so grateful for it. And if everyone would just understand and realize that I have to do this for myself. I have to go with it. I have to, this is not working. So I mean, it's anything. I mean, if you find something that's not working for you, you don't keep trying to. You can't go keep trying to implement something that doesn't work.
That's right. It's like trying to put a circle and a square in a circle inside of a circle. It doesn't fit. And no matter how you force it, you're going to disfigure one of them, either the square or the circle. And so if we just come to a realization that we are totally, absolutely, without a doubt, equipped for everything that we are faced with. We have a Father that is not going to allow you to get into anything that you cannot get out of or get through. So it's totally changing your mindset, and your mindset is not going to change automatically. Your mindset changes with experiences. The things that you go through, it is necessary for us to go through these things in order to obtain the information that we know this. We can get through this. We're empowered for this. But you have to encourage yourself. You can't wait for somebody. You can't wait for a book. Can't wait for a sermon. Can't wait for a motivator or encourager. You've got to encourage yourself. It's good that we have these other people and other tools for that. But just in case you can't get to that, you need to be equipped for your own journey.
You have to be. That's right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, there's been a change of plans. We had our special guest, Gretchen Mickler. She was going to be joining us. She has some technical difficulties, but we will have her later on in the season to share with us her story and journey. So tonight, ladies and gentlemen, you just have my great co-host and myself, and we're going to be talking about being a strong woman. And we're going to really dive into tonight's lecture on supernatural visitations, and we're going to speak about Hannah. So we're looking forward to that. I love all the stories in the Bible, but this one is really going. I know. I was meditating on it today, and I'm excited that we have this opportunity to really dive into it, because you know how we do. We're going to share our different perspectives, but somehow they seem to work like a nice, well-seasoned gumbo. Yeah. I haven't eaten
gumbo. Oh gosh. Okay.
But so, since we have a little time, Coz, I just want you to kind of just share with us your experiences, the last 3 years, because it's been interesting. but I mean, you've come out on the other side, and you still have, you have just, I mean, you had those little bumps in the road and everything, because we all do, because this body, we're in this body, but now it's starting to all kind of, I believe that it's all starting to kind of make sense somewhat to you.
It is. These last 3 or 4 years have been, it's like it's been escalating to how hard or how difficult the situation could be. And every year it has been something that has taken me to a different dimension in God. When I came back from Alabama and God began to say to me, I'm going to open every door. Now at that time I was thinking like, oh, I'm gonna be preaching over here. I got this. So when I got to Georgia, I was excited because these doors are opening. But as I got here, the doors that I thought were going to be open were not the doors that God was speaking about. And sometimes you get excited about hearing a door is opening and you don't ask God, well, what kind of door is it that you're talking about?
Yeah. And are you going to use a sledgehammer or a crowbar?
Yeah. And so I never asked.
Uh-huh.
So he never said. He just said the doors. And so as things have progressed from the time that I got here up until this point, I recognized that he was awakening me to every door to him. Because once you go through a door or a situation and God delivers you, or God provides you with the tools for your deliverance, and you take responsibility and go through the deliverance, then you're going to be open to something else. And just when you think, man, that was awesome, something else comes. So this year, it wasn't one thing, it was back-to-back things.
1-2 punch. Yeah, you in the
Right.
ring
It was
now.
the rope-a-dope. It was the rope-a-dope status where, I didn't recover from one thing when something else was hitting. So January on my birthday, it was a car accident. So my car was not total, but it was messed up. Once that was complete, my transmission went out in February. So the person that was fixing it made it worse. So that was the car situation. Then in March, I got a bad mammogram. So I went through that. In April, I found out it was nothing. But there was a month in between gap of them confirming that it was nothing, which was teaching me to encourage myself to not. And when you're getting those type diagnoses, you cannot agree with the doctor. I'm not saying don't listen, but do not agree, because any two touching and agreeing on anything, you're a creator, you're going to create it. And so the best way to get through that is not to share the bad news with everybody, because everybody has an opinion, everybody feels a certain way, their 5 emotions get involved and they pull you into it, and then before you know it, you're crying, oh, woe is me. So April, I've had this diagnosis about a cyst on my kidney. So they're saying that's not getting better. And then after that, in May, the early part of May, another car accident. Neither car accident was my fault. I was using my brother's car. Now his car is messed up. So it was back to back from the beginning of the year up until now. But the times that all of that happened, I was constantly evolving. I'm not going to tell you I was in the greatest of moods every time, or I was just this motivating myself. There were moments that you have a downtime. And when you have that downtime, it's not bad to have a downtime, but what keeps you down is you staying down. You have to design a way of pulling yourself back up to that frequency, which I found out was in the beginning was the word, and it wasn't letters or numbers, it was a frequency. So it was God's frequency. He said, if you just stay up, I had people encourage me, only a couple. Vanessa was encouraging me, My friend Ron was encouraging me. My brother was encouraging me. And all of that was coming together with my encouragement. So you can't let everybody in your circle, when you're going through your tests and trials, unless you're able to handle their opinions.
Right.
Because that's all they are,
And
opinions.
if you recall, Jesus didn't have he did
He only had two.
Peter.
And then he had a mini circle of
Peter,
3.
James, and John.
Yeah, he had 12, and then he reduced that circle to 3. So if you're going through something right now, it is best for you to get in a place, a small circle if necessary, of people that are going to only encourage you. They're never going to feel sorry for you. They're not going to talk down about the situation, but they're going to continue to keep you on that in the beginning was the word frequency, because that's your creative mode for whatever it is that you're facing. All we're doing is just creating something greater. We're just taking nothing and making something out of it. So as of today, I was without a car, but today I have a car.
You see what I'm saying? You see what I'm saying, girl? You see what I'm saying?
And the thing about it is God has provided the car, the insurance. You just have to stay in the trust mode. The trust mode means God did not just find out that you were without a car, or that you got a diagnosis, or that you had something that happened to your child, or something that happened to your spouse. God didn't just arrive on the scene and say, oh, well, Michelle doesn't have a car. He always has a plan. And even when you don't follow the plan is still going to go forth. You may delay it. It may be delayed because you didn't follow it, but you're not going to be denied. So
that's right.
I'm just excited, not about the things. I found out that I wasn't excited about the things. I also got a new job doing what I like to do. But people kept saying, aren't you excited? What I was excited about is how God held me up to get to the things and to seek the kingdom first. And I said, wow, what is the kingdom? The kingdom was me, because he's inside of me. And so when I began to seek the power that's inside of me, then I began to get the things. And then when I got the things, I wasn't so excited, more excited about the things than I was about the next thing that God was going to show me, or that God was going to expose to me. So it's been a journey, but it's been a journey that I can say, see, most people don't get excited about stuff going wrong. And I'm not saying I got excited about it, but at this point, at my level of frequency, I know that whatever goes wrong, God can right it. And so when I mean right, I mean RIGHT, his righteousness. Seek ye first, see the king first, and all his righteousness. See your king within yourself. You're a king over this world. This is your worldly system. This is what you're creating. This is your story that you're writing. And then it's not his story. It's not her story. It's not his opinion. It's not her opinion. But it is what you are seeking first, loving yourself, trusting yourself, and believing in yourself are 3 of the most powerful things you can do.
Most powerful thing you can do. See, so now you finally, because see, now that you have disconnected yourself from the matrix system.
Yes, that's what the kingdom is. Disconnect.
A place of detachment. You
get it?
So now none of these things will move you, because you
right.
understand what it all is, right?
Right.
So like, okay, that's nice. Well,
and the more that things don't move you, the more things come.
Yep.
That's and just like I was getting the rope-a-dope, that frequency is coming with the things.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not so excited about the things. I'm excited about this level of consciousness that
because you're coming into the knowledge of your power.
Yes, that's what I'm excited about. But and I kept asking myself, why aren't you excited? Why aren't you excited? But I was excited, just not about the thing and the stuff.
Right. And people, when you were talking about it, I was like, yeah, that reminds me, hell in the hallway.
Yeah.
We'll have hell in the hallway. Thank you,
Every door was hell. Every
Pastor
door.
Jensen, Franklin. Yep, you're going to have hell in the hallway. And also, when you get in that rope-a-dope, that attack, you're going to have some people in your corner, the ones that are going to be encouraging you, because you're in the ring. You're in the last championship round. You're in the ring. Here you go. Boom, rope-a-dope. Tough, and then you get in that corner, and that's all you need is you need the people in your
that
corner
one moment of breath
that's yelling in your ear. Get up! Get up! Stop feeling sorry for yourself. Get it together. Keep going. And that empowers you and encourages you. And then you go out and you stand and you go swinging. And then the next thing you know, boom, you're in another experience, a better one. You've crossed over. And a lot of people give up and they don't understand it because we've been bamboozled and lied to by the system to keep us blind and bound and down at operating at a lower frequency instead of at the frequency where Christ was operating, to actually see the magic and the manifestation of what was promised to us. And I'm not talking about the material things. I'm talking about what you're saying, that spiritual strength, that power that comes from operating on the frequency of Christ consciousness.
Yeah, and we've been saying so long the spirit is in me, but we're actually in the spirit. That's how we came here. That's how we originally came here. The flesh came later. We originally came here in the spirit. So the spirit is what we're operating in, and it is my wheelhouse to make the decision to follow the spirit, because it's going to lead you and guide you to all truth. All truth.
All truth.
Not opinions. It's going to lead you to all truth. And so some of the things that we believed were people's opinions. They were not the truth. We made them our truths, but they were not necessarily the truth. They may have been a truth, but it wasn't the truth. And so we've got to revamp our whole situation from when we started all this foolishness and to the point that where we are or should be at this point. I wouldn't go back because there's nothing to go back to. So, we just got to press forward.
You have to press forward, and everything you think that you lost, left behind, there's something on the other side of it. And then, you're talking about how your car, and I remember I told you about this when, during our internal talks, but the white car that I had was having some issues with it when I was going through that 2019 scenario, and it just stalled right in the middle of the road. And I'll never forget, I'm sitting there, right? And I was so angry. Because I was like, because I had just had to move out of my cottage, just moved back into my parents in my old room. And I was just like, I couldn't catch a break.
Right.
I remember sitting there and I was screaming. I was like, it's only temporary. But it was, right? Sure enough, even though I was angry, that vibration, someone, sure enough, few minutes later, someone came to help me push it out of the way so no big truck didn't come and, just totally smash me. It was, and I was on the side, and then I had my mom had AAA. They picked up the car. They took it back to the house and everything. And it all worked out. And a lot of people don't understand when you're going through those pressing situations where one thing after another is happening. When you change the way you look at things, the thing you look at change. So if you can just position yourself to counteract by speaking everything that, against it, and, by rebuting it. And when you do that, it kind of keeps you going forward. If you sit there and start wallowing in it and operating from that perspective, then it just delays it.
Right.
If you can find a way to just push or reaffirm yourself of these things, then support will come, everything, because we're not here alone. You know, we are more powerful than we could ever come into the realization of where we are. We are operating as God down here.
And we don't understand that, or understand or overstand it, that we are little gods.
Mm-hmm.
And in order to be in the image of the God, you have to be reflected as a God. And so people like Yahshua said, I find it not robbery to be equal with God.
Right.
And we're not talking about the flesh. We're talking about the spirit realm of the, see, people get it all confused that we're talking about the flesh. We're not talking about the flesh being God. We're talking about the spirit that dwells in us as being a little God. The only reason it's a little God because we're operating in this earthly realm, but it still has that big power. And so we've got to see a different image, because what you look at in the mirror is not the true you. The real image of you is inside of you.
Right.
And so if we could just get that imagination and start telling ourselves that, then we won't make such a big deal out of this little, what they call it, this small little things that are happening based on our big power to overcome it. Because we can change anything.
Right. You just have to believe.
So, yeah.
Have to believe it. All right. So this is great. So tonight, like again, we're going to run a couple of commercials, and when we come back, we're going to be discussing being a strong woman, supernatural visitations. Hannah. So I want to talk about Hannah. So scripture references 1 Samuel, verse 11 through 13. And when we come back, we're going to be, let me change this. We're going to be talking about Hannah. I love that story. I do.
I can understand that. I think Panina is going to be your favorite character.
Oh, yeah. Yep. We're going to talk about that doggone Panina. So when we come back, we're going to be talking about supernatural visitations, Hannah. So stay tuned. Get ready for your now awakening. Today's Michelleology returns Memorial Day, only on Stay in Love TV. Hello, everyone. Join me and the great Michelle Messi Washington on Sunday, May 28th, with our very special guest, Lydia Burden. Lydia will be sharing how she conquered the unforbidden to birth her book, Free Land for Sale. So join us Sunday, 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Stay in Love TV. I forgot to. That's right. Next we will have Lydia Burden. She's going to be sharing with us. She actually has a book out called Free Land for Sale. So I'm curious to hear what that is all about. We'll be talking about the forbidden, how she overcame some things that and discusses things that are forbidden, and how it empowered her. But tonight we are going to be talking about, our lecture is The Strength of a Woman. That's not it. Being a Strong Woman. Here we go. Okay, being a strong woman, and the scripture reference is, I'm gonna put it here. There we go. Put that there. Okay, there we go. All right, there we go. 1 Samuel 11 through 13. You got it, co-host? Or you need me to bring it up? Okay, take it away.
So when we begin to talk about Hannah, there are some things that are very key to her story. And so we're going to try to examine some of those things, and hopefully it's going to meet you where you are. Because you can find material and tools to use in every scripture based on your life.
You can.
So it says, and she vowed a vow. And I understand this, and I'll tell you why. And said, O Lord of hosts, if thou would indeed look upon the afflictions of thine handmaiden, and remember me, and not forget thy handmaiden, but will give unto thine handmaiden a man child, then I will give him unto the Lord all the days of his life, and there shall be no razor come upon his head. And it came to pass, as she continued praying before the Lord, that Eli marked her mouth. Now Hannah, she spake in her heart. This is key. Only her lips moved, but her voice was not heard. Therefore, Eli thought she had been drunken.
Mm-hmm.
So Eli thought she was talking to herself. So when we talk about making a vow, the key thing to that is that she made a vow before she began to pray. So the vow is actually seeing yourself in a space. Now faith is the substance of things hoped for and the evidence of things not physically seen. So it was key that she was making a vow. And I tell you why I equate that vow, because I made a vow like that. Because I was told by the doctors I couldn't have kids. And so the vow that I made was right on my calendar, be pregnant by or be pregnant before age 40. So I conceived at that time because I spoke it in faith. And she did the same thing. And when she talked to God, her husband couldn't hear the words. He just saw her lips moving. But it actually says in the scripture that she was coming from her heart, because that's where God is. That's that chakra that we need to stay closely attached to, because that's where that's where the voice of God is. So it was I can relate to her because I wanted children, but she wanted children for a different reason than I wanted children. But the fact is, her story became my story. It's just in a different time, in a different space, and in a different place. And so Miracle was conceived. That was her name. Miracle was conceived and supposed to be born 4 days before I turned 40. Now, what God did was he made sure she was here before I was 40. She was actually born. She was supposed to be January 20th, but she was born on Thanksgiving in November the previous year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's very fitting how if you don't hold God to, now God, I want you to do it like this. I want you to, and you just put it out there from your heart, and he'll already do the rest. He knew I was going to have Miracle. He knew she was going to have her child, her man child, just like she asked for it. And so what we have to do in this place, in that supernatural time where you have a meditation moment with God, and y'all sit down and begin to express to each other, because prayer is a communication. You talk and God talks.
Mm-hmm.
And so it allows you to get the picture. But she was consistent. She was consistent. Her prayer time was communication, constantly saying, and I'm sure she was probably saying, Lord, I just thank you for my man child that you're going to give me. I don't know when it's coming. I don't need to know when it's coming. I just know it's coming.
Well, I like your perspective on that. But I want to talk about how did she get there, right? Because because there's something about obstacles, challenges, abrasive situations that will, like you said, she was asking, her motives were different. But this is just shows how, my opinion, shows how that, because let me put it this way. Her approach was because of her husband's other wife, Penina, who was aggravating the hell out of her every day, because Penina was popping out babies like Tic Tacs from a dispensary. So she, but she was considered the favored wife, back then. And that's a whole nother.
And Penina name means popularity.
So that means that everybody was, singing Penina's praises as they was going out. And then, although Hannah was considered, she had maybe Hannah had all the nice clothes and the jewelry, and her hair was laid and all this kind of stuff. Penina was probably, however, but she had the children. That was something considered a value back in the
Right,
way
right,
the story was
right.
depicted. So although she looked good and she smelled good and she had on everything, she didn't have no children. And that was kind of like a slap in her face. So it's interesting how these stories that you can really find yourself and see, because
Yeah,
that's what makes it so alive, right? So my
right,
perspective on it was, okay, although she appeared to have everything, the one
right.
thing that she truly desired, she didn't have. And although she was afflicted and downtrodden and depressed and sick and tired of being sick and tired, she knew where to go. She knew who to consult with and pray, and she asked God for it. And
And her name meant favor. So when you have favor and maybe not popularity, it's gonna work in your favor. So that, I guess, favor is not seen or the popular thing for people to see, but it is a most valuable tool to have.
favor is better than
Yeah.
fame.
Yes, exactly. And the world tells you fame is better than favor. And so everything is switched. Everything is switched.
That's how you know. That's how you know.
Yeah.
That's why I get tied up in the, I get a little frustrated about things, because you're investing and putting in all this effort and everything, and you're like, you don't see any traction or any movement or anything. But then I have to check myself before I wreck myself, because I'm like, wait a minute, why are you doing what you're doing? What's your motive? So I really have to, constantly just
That's
check
a good point. That's a good
why
point.
am I doing what I'm doing? Am I doing it because I want 100,000 views?
Fame
Am I doing it for fame
or faith?
or fame? Who
That's a
is,
good point. That's a good point.
and I have to check myself, and I have to tell myself, wait a minute now. And then, here come Panana. You could do so much with that money you pouring into this network, and all. You could be doing this, you could have this. Like, no, this ain't my home, so I don't need it anyway.
Right.
After I have these discussions,
Hmm.
we die daily, and I'm like, no, I know what I'm doing, kind of, sort of, So I really have to keep myself in check. So the thing is that although, see, this is the great thing about how your story is written. Although from her at the time it appeared like she didn't have anything and she was coming before God, but actually she was already operating according to her storyline, right? Because a
Right.
prophet was about to be born, So although she was, and then she vowed, she said, "Okay, Razor won't touch his head. He belongs to you. Just give me a baby." And I think that it was her seeking and the strength of her constantly going before God to the point where she was just like done. She was done to the point where she started bargaining. And that was even a part of her story.
Right. And I think as her story went from being marked for not having kids, and then when she's speaking to God about having kids, her husband joins in and begins to think that she's drunk. And then all of that is on her, but she's still pressed in to the focus of what it is that her desire was. So you can't be distracted by people saying or people doing or people not understanding. When you have an image before you and God is allowing you at this point to move, you got to stay focused. And they're
Mm-hmm.
going to people be after you and saying stuff to you about you, but you can't get distracted from that. And I believe that part of her strength was not to be distracted, but continue to seek God for that which she was seeking.
Yeah, and she was because she was battling something. She was battling the voices.
Mhm.
And because when you start, okay, when you start seeing someone who has everything, what you are truly desiring, right? She felt incomplete. And we're prone to do that too if we focus on what everyone else has, and not what, and that's what Elk and I was trying to, tell her, look, you got everything. You have me. What, she's, no, I want a child. And so, I mean, there's lots of ways I can look at this story, and I'm going to try to just remain focused on the title. She was strong because she did not give up, and she got to the point where she was so drunk on despair and sorrow that she just said, you know what? I don't even want him for me. I want him for you, God.
Right. And
Yeah.
that was the key. That was the moment that she got out of the child being a thing for her and it being what God had in store for her. It's like taking your mind off of what everybody else say you should have, or you should be pregnant by now. Also in the story later on, it tells you that her husband still favored her. He still gave her more than he gave Penina. And I think he was trying to satisfy her to let her know, look, whether you have a baby or not, you're still favored. Because that was her name. She could not get away from favor because that was her name. So no matter what position or predicament she was in during that time, favor followed her. Favor designed her. Favor made her that strong woman. So we've got to stop looking at what people think we ought to be doing and what we should be having. And you should be pregnant by now. You should be married by now. You should be in a house by now. You should be this, should be that. All of that is just an opinion. Stay in your lane and move forward.
And yeah, and I mean, I was just, well, I think we've all experienced it, but the point where, like, once I detach myself from trying to acquire and operate from someone else's opinion versus what God was telling me inside, is when things just begin to manifest, and right. You really do have to detach yourself. You really do have to operate from a place of detachment and not get so, tied up and tangled up into material things. And what really keeps me is I have to remind myself too. I'm like, wait a minute, this ain't my home. Why am I concerned about that? Why am I looking at that? Nope. I'm not doing it. And I'm on assignment. This is not the world that I would like to experience some of those things here. I really don't. I mean, and I think about it and everything, but I know that I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing because it brings me joy in knowing that I'm choosing to leave my artifacts here.
Right.
Because I mean, if you look at it, think about it. The Bible stories were written. Somebody wrote them. They're not here anymore. Not in the flesh.
Right.
Maybe they're reincarnated as other people and everything, but during that time, they were inspired by God to write a message, and those stories and those messages got to the right people to the point where we are still learning and growing from it today.
Right. And also, because it, like earlier this week, God was saying to me, I inspired. Am I going to tell you that everything in the Bible is absolutely what God said? I inspired them to write, but at their level of consciousness. Right. And so as the word is written, it's a frequency. And when the frequency hits you, it's going to hit you at your level of consciousness. And it's going to revelate something maybe totally different, something similar, but it's based on the frequency that it was written in. If you're on that frequency that it was written in, that's what you're going to receive. If you're higher than that, you're going to get a revelation from that. And so we've got to find ourselves studying the word on a frequency level of knowing where that person was based on what they wrote and knowing where you are at the time that you are reading it or studying it. Mm-hmm. And it should always take you higher and higher, from faith to faith and the glory to glory. If you're still right there where it's written, you may
Then
need to do it.
you're not learning in part. It says
Right.
you will come to know in part.
Right. And
So
so this woman, this wombed man is with a superpower of favor. It is important that we find out what's in us and not what's outside of us. We
right,
as ladies are very particular about hair, clothes, nails, jewelry, all of those things. But we need to take that same energy. And I'm not saying don't look nice. That's not what I'm saying, because I like to look nice. But if we take that energy on our insides, the outside is definitely going to come into what it needs to come into. So this strong woman, I don't know what she looked like, but she was favored. And when you're favored, it don't matter what you look like. It matters what's going on inside of you. Because I've seen a bunch of beautiful outside women, but that inside was a little toe up.
from the floor up. Some still now, and I'm looking at it, I'm like, ooh, and it's because they, I was thinking about that. I was like, when you're hypnotized, when you're asleep, you're sleepwalking. Those people they catch them on camera, they're sleepwalking. There's always somebody that's gonna you'll have somebody to keep you from harming yourselves. And
Right.
during our sleep experience of being hypnotized and asleep, we had grace and mercy right with us, keeping us from harming ourselves, because of the ultimate purpose was for us to awaken in this timeline.
Right.
So I'm thinking about that. I'm like, man, all those years I was just operating on default, just doing it. And I'm sure you see it too. We certain these videos and you look at these women and ain't got no clothes on. I'm like, do they realize that is going to be here forever? So that, but they're and I can see it. I don't know about you, Michelle, but I can see it, how they're just, it's like they're hypnotized.
And they are.
They're
They
programmed,
are.
and with the twerking and I'm like, yeah, I did that too when I in my 20s, and I'm so glad that there's probably a video somewhere, VHS somewhere. But I mean, as far as like a day-to-day thing where I'm trying to lure and attract somebody and get views, I'd much rather be doing this than doing that to get views, because I'm my brand.
And they really are, like you're saying, sleep and not knowing what their qualities are, and that it's more than their body. It's way more than their body, but because of television, because of this third dimensional hypnotism that tells them, as long as the outside is looking good, then all is well. And I'm very, when I see that, I try to make my intentions to address it in the spirit rather than making a comment in the flesh.
Right.
I'm practicing now. I'm telling you, I get it right every time. But now the spirit is checking me when I do that. If that's my first intention of saying something, then immediately I'm checked to change that. So I've been practicing that.
Right. So it all boils down to the question tonight, ladies and gentlemen. Are you doing it for fame, or are you doing it because you don't realize that you're favored? See, so they're these the videos and everything they're doing, and they get views. They get a lot of views, but I'm reminded of the whore of Babylon, the great prostitute, and you got these little prostitutes. And if you find that what you are putting out there reminds someone of a prostitute, then you're under the spell of the whore of Babylon. Yes, I'm saying it. You're operating, you're working for them. And what I mean by them is that spirit that has you operating at a lower vibration. And we all can do it. I've done it. I have a serious background. But that was at that lower vibration. And I chose to go away from it because I knew my purpose was calling me, right? But after a while, I started feeling bad about dancing on stage with no clothes on.
Mhm.
I'll never forget. I was standing there and I'm looking in the mirror. I'm like, good Lord, I'm naked. It just dawned on me, right? Through all the cocaine I just inhaled and the crack I just smoked, and I'm on stage, right? I sobered up real quick, and I was like, I'm naked, And that was when I started, I realized I'm like, no, I don't want to do this anymore. And my sincere prayer for all of you people, especially you women and girls, that is not the way to go. It is not.
Right.
It is not the way to go. But it's because we've been conditioned and programmed, and because we've been consuming. So
Right.
you have to be careful about what you see, and what you say. Been consuming, and if you're feeding that in there, you can't help but to be that. So that's why I choose not to, ingest any of that. I'm like, no, that's not for me. I would much rather ingest things that's going to empower my spirit and elevate me up higher, so I can finish my assignment and get up out of here.
Yeah, and it's really making a decision. It's like your defining moment. Like you say, you looked in there and saw you were naked. That was your defining moment. And a lot of people don't listen to that defining moment because they're so familiar and comfortable, and they don't have to change. They just have to continue. And so when you're changing, that means you have to make some provisions. You have to make some shifts. You have to put away some things. You have to throw away some stuff. And that takes work. And so a lot of people are not willing to put in the work. It's easier just to do that. I just know this week that God said, don't worry about your comfort zone. I want you to not be familiar either with your uncomfortable zone.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're uncomfortable in the situation that you're in, don't get familiar with that, is what I'm saying. Like people get familiar with being comfortable. A lot of people get familiar with being uncomfortable. That's their way of life. I'm not going to be getting familiar with being uncomfortable, and I'm not going to get familiar with being in a certain space because God is always moving. So a lot of people just choose not to change until something really awful happens. And I don't want to change based on something bad happen. I want to change because I'm making a decision to do that.
Agreed, co-host.
And
Agreed.
that's a strong woman.
Yes.
That's a strong woman, to make a decision to change when nothing has happened. Not raped, not slapped, not knocked down, but just make a conscious decision. I'm better than that.
That is so good, co-host. So good. I feel compelled that we need to pray tonight for all these young girls who are influenced by people who aren't aware, famous people that aren't aware. And,
Right.
you know,
You gonna pray?
do you have something?
I just want to speak into their lives.
Okay. And then
Um,
I'll close with a little prayer. Go ahead.
yeah. Just remember that you're made in the image of God and not in the image of man. God created the earth. Man created the world. And so you have the ability, regardless of money, regardless of status, regardless of popularity, that you see, or that people desire to see you without clothes, see yourself in a different light. We are light beings. And every time our light comes on, it brings us out of this dark place, out of this darkness. And so you have that ability, first of all, to love yourself for who you are and what you're created to be. Because there is not another person on this earth that have what you have. They have the abilities, they have the skills. You're in a class by yourself. And it's not your hips, your lips, or your fingertips, but it is everything that God has placed in you. And so you can start with nothing and create something. So don't wait for money, don't wait for fame, don't wait for fortune, don't wait for anything, but allowing God to move you in a greater space and a greater place. He's not doing anything He's already done it. He's waiting for you.
He's waiting for you. Almighty God, our Creator, we just come boldly to your throne of grace to obtain your mercy. We just lift up every individual who is operating under the influence of the whore of Babylon. They're influenced by money and fame and sex. And we just ask that you just continue to nudge them, encourage them, and influence them, and send the right messages. Put them in front of them so that they may see that they are loved more than they could ever imagine, that they are loved, and that they operate at a higher frequency, that they be challenged to elevate themselves by putting in and ingesting the right words to elevate them higher in knowing that they can stand on their own because you exist with them, Almighty God. Strengthen and empower and continue to bring those moments of clarity that they may see themselves clearly as your creation, God. May they be empowered and encouraged and enriched to live a life that truly, truly exemplifies you, our God creator. Amen. Co-host.
Amen. Yes.
My goodness, we did it again. We did it again, co-host. May you have an amazing week, co-host, on your
You
newest
too. I plan on it. No matter what, I'm going to have an amazing week.
And you're actually getting your wish. This is a part of your wish list. Do you
My
see
bucket list.
Yeah, I see it.
List. Yeah.
You're going. I mean, he says, when you came to the prisons, you visited me. When you fed me, I was hungry. That was me. Oh, I'm so excited for you, co-host. Things are opening up for you. I see you on TikTok too. Blowing up over there.
Blowing up.
Blowing up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, we want to thank you so much for joining us tonight. Again, we will have Gretchen Mickler later on in the season. We'll get that set up, and you guys can enjoy her story and everything that she has to share. So, Gretchen, we love and care for you. We will be working with you. You'll hear from us next week, and we'll get some things going for you. But until next week on Spiritually Speaking and Awakening, we want to wish that you have an amazing week in God, and that the favor of what's for you you'll be able to see it next week. I know it's happening.
Of course. It's already happened.
It's already happening.
We just have to catch up to it.
Girl, I'm excited for you.
Yeah.
I'm excited for you. It's some good stuff. So have a great week. And everyone, we want to thank you again. Until next week on 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Stay in Love TV. I'm Vanessa Klinger, your intuitive life strategist and life coach motivator.
And I'm Michelle, your motivator and your spiritual evolutionist. Namaste. I bow to the divine presence, plan, purpose, and power that God has invested in you. Use it wisely.
Have a great, great night and a great week,
You
everybody.
All
See you
right.
guys. Stay in
Bye.
love, everybody.
Think that you are encountering resistance, but actually from your external world, but actually that's your world